If you hear a dog howl tonight, lock your doors, because it might be a countdown to your own death. For centuries, spotting the spectral black dog wasn't just bad luck, it was a guaranteed death sentence. From the demon Black Shuck to the terrifying Grim, we are exposing the real legends that inspired the Hound of the Baskervilles. You need to know the difference between a stray and an omen before it's too late. The chilling meaning of dog howls. Have you ever been lying in bed late at night when suddenly you hear it? A long, mournful howl cutting through the silence. It makes your skin crawl, doesn't it? Well, you aren't alone in feeling that dread. For centuries, specifically within British folklore, the sound of a dog howling hasn't just been dismissed as a canine calling to the moon. It is widely believed to be a sign of death coming. I have to tell you, the first time I read about this, I actually checked my window lock. It's terrifying to think that a simple sound could be a countdown. The belief is incredibly specific. A dog howling isn't just noise. It is a direct omen predicting that someone in the house, or perhaps the listener themselves, is about to die. It's heavy stuff, right? But here's the part that they didn't tell you in history class. This fear is deeply rooted in our psychology. Experts in folklore have traced these superstitions back hundreds of years, noting that animals were often seen as having a sixth sense about the afterlife. If you hear that sound tonight, don't look outside, because what you might see is far worse than what you hear. But if you think a howling dog is scary, wait until you meet the physical manifestation of that fear. Unveiling the Black Dog folklore. So, we've talked about the sound, but what about the sight? This brings us to the terrifying legend of the black dog. Now, I'm not talking about a cute Labrador you meet at the park. In British folklore, the black dog is a spectral entity, a phantom that appears at night. There is a massive amount of historical documentation surrounding this. We aren't just talking about one or two isolated stories. This is a widespread phenomenon across the British Isles. These aren't normal animals. They are described as massive, often with glowing eyes, and they dissolve into the mist. It is fascinating, yet deeply unsettling, how many credible historical accounts mention these encounters. It makes you wonder, were they all hallucinating? Or is there something lurking in the dark that we refuse to acknowledge? Here is the kicker. Seeing one of these creatures is almost universally considered a death omen. It is the ultimate bad luck. Imagine walking home, seeing a large dog, and realizing your time might be up. But the black dog isn't just one entity. It takes many forms. And the next one we are going to talk about. It likes to hang out in the one place you absolutely never want to be at night. Grim, the shadowy death omen. Let's talk about the Grim. If you are a fan of pop culture or wizarding worlds, that name probably rings a bell. But the real folklore behind the Grim is far darker than any movie. The Grim is a specific type of black dog that is known to haunt churchyards and burial grounds. Think about that for a second. A spectral watchdog that patrols the resting place of the dead. I don't know about you, but that gives me absolute chills. The Grim is essentially the guardian of the dead, but seeing it is a terrible sign. It is the omen of death itself. There is something so primal about this fear. It connects our love for dogs, our protectors, and twists it into something that protects the afterlife instead of the living. Folklore experts often discuss the Grim as a churchyard Grim, a spirit that ensures the dead remain undisturbed. It adds this layer of supernatural authority to the legend. But here's the thing that really messes with my head. The Grim mostly watches. It observes. But there is another dog in this folklore family that is much, much more aggressive. You might want to turn the lights on for this next part. Black Shuck, the demon dog legend. If the Grim is the watcher, Black Shuck is the hunter. This legend comes from East Anglia and is perhaps one of the most famous and feared variations of the black dog myth. Black Shuck isn't just a ghost. He is often described as a demon dog. We are talking about a creature with flaming eyes, sometimes just one single eye in the center of his forehead, that brings disaster wherever he goes. There are literal church records from the 1500s that claim this dog burst into a church during a storm and killed people. That is not just a campfire story. That is written in historical documents. It really makes you question where the line between myth and reality blurs. Imagine the sheer panic of those people. It's said that to meet Black Shuck is to meet your doom. He is the embodiment of the storm, the dark, and the sudden, violent end. It is honestly exhausting just thinking about the level of fear people must have lived with. But believe it or not, Shuck isn't the only monster roaming the north. There is another one, and this one brings chains. The Barghest, a monstrous northern myth. Moving up to the north of England, we encounter the Barghest. Even the name sounds heavy, doesn't it? The Barghest is distinct because it is often viewed as a shapeshifter, but its most common form is that of a huge black dog with huge claws and eyes like burning coals. But here's the detail that will haunt your nightmares. The Barghest is said to drag heavy iron chains behind it. Just imagine that sound, clank, 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 in the dead of night. Hearing those chains isn't just spooky. In the folklore, it is a definitive omen that death is coming for a local noble or someone important. It creates this incredible auditory horror that goes beyond just seeing a monster. Historically, this myth was so potent that people would refuse to go out at night if the Barghest was loose. It shows the power of social proof in these communities. If the elders said the beast was out, nobody moved. It was a survival instinct. But these legends didn't just stay in the villages. They inspired one of the most famous detective stories of all time. And what happens next will surprise you, because you probably know this story better than you think. Real roots of the Baskerville Hound. You know Sherlock Holmes, right? The most rational, logical detective in fiction. Well, his most famous case, the Hound of the Baskervilles, wasn't just pulled out of thin air. It was directly inspired by these terrifying legends of the black dog. Haha, it is ironic, isn't it? The ultimate symbol of logic battling a creature born from pure superstition. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle took the myths of the Grim, Black Shuck, and the Barghest, these terrifying spectral hounds from British folklore, and wove them into a literary masterpiece. This serves as incredible cultural proof of how deeply these legends were embedded in the public consciousness. Everyone knew what a black dog meant. Doyle just gave it a name and a plot. This is the part I love. The fiction only works because the real folklore was so scary. If people didn't already believe that phantom dogs were omens of death, the book wouldn't have been scary. It leveraged centuries of fear. But ultimately, whether it is in a book or in a dark alley, all these roads lead to one terrifying conclusion. Dog omens as signs of doom. So, we have looked at the Grim, Shuck, the Barghest, and the literary hound. What ties them all together? It is the unshakable belief that these dog omens are definitive signs of doom. It is a heavy thought. Across all these variations, the core message remains the same. The dog is a messenger. Whether it is the howling outside your window or the glowing eyes in the graveyard, the presence of these supernatural canines signals that the barrier between the living and the dead is thinning. It really makes you look at man's best friend a little differently, doesn't it? We love dogs because they are loyal and protective. But these myths tap into a deep, primal fear that the thing we trust most could also be the harbinger of our end. It is a brilliant, twisted piece of human psychology. But don't worry too much. Unless you hear chains dragging outside your door tonight, you are probably safe. Probably. Now when you see a shadow in the graveyard, you'll know if it's just a dog, or the grim coming to collect a soul. Don't face the dark alone. Smash that subscribe button right now for more ChickaPaws mysteries. Tell us below, have you ever heard the terrifying chains of the Barghest?